Why was Chris Olah, co-founder of Anthropic, the only big tech executive standing next to Pope Leo XIV on Memorial Day morning? Not Google, not Microsoft, not Meta, not OpenAI. One man, one company, one voice, speaking to 1.4 billion Catholics. And what he said on that Vatican stage was being acted out, in real time, in a Tel Aviv office park where 1,000 workers were about to lose their jobs to the very product they helped build. Monday morning, 11 a.m. Rome time. Wall Street is dark for Memorial Day. The trading floor is empty. And inside the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV publishes his first encyclical, 42,300 words, signed in his own hand, titled Magnifica Humanitas. It is the longest debut document by any modern pope. Its subject is not war, not poverty, not migration. Its subject is artificial intelligence. Sitting beside him on the dais is a big tech founder almost no one in America has ever heard speak. To understand why this is strange, you have to know what Leo XIII did in 1891. He wrote Rerum Novarum, the church's first major text on industrial workers. Pope Leo XIV picked his name on purpose. He's writing the sequel, but his workers aren't striking coal miners. His workers are software engineers, designers, copywriters, accountants, lawyers. The Pope is writing the first big modern text about what happens to humans when machines do their jobs better than they do. Buried in the middle of the encyclical is a warning. Pope Leo writes that humans are starting to see themselves and each other as problems to be solved through optimization. He says illness, aging, and limitation are not defects to be coded out. Keep that phrase in your head, problems to be solved through optimization. Because 90 minutes later, in a small office in Tel Aviv, somebody on a corporate finance team was running exactly that math on roughly 1,000 people. Sitting next to the Pope was Chris Olah, co-founder of Anthropic, the company behind Claude. He was the only person from any major AI company invited to speak. Not Google, not Microsoft, not Meta, not OpenAI. One man, one company, one voice from inside big tech, standing in front of a global audience of roughly 1.4 billion Catholics. And he did not bring a product demo. He came carrying a warning his own industry has spent years refusing to put on a stage. Olah said something that no big tech founder has said this clearly on a public stage. Quote, every frontier AI lab, including Anthropic, operates inside a set of incentives and constraints that can sometimes conflict with doing the right thing. Translation: we cannot trust ourselves. He told the Pope's audience that AI development is concentrated in a handful of wealthy countries and asked, on camera, how the gains could ever be shared globally. Then, he went stranger. He described what Anthropic's own researchers find when they look inside their own models, internal states that functionally mirror joy, satisfaction, fear, grief, and unease. Read that sentence again. A founder of one of the most valuable AI companies in the world just told a pope, on the record, that his machines might be experiencing something. But it gets worse. Then came the line that will define this entire news cycle. Olah said there is, quote, a real possibility AI will displace human labor at very large scale. And if that happens, quote, supporting those displaced will be a moral imperative of historic proportions. A man whose company is racing to build that exact technology just publicly admitted, in front of the Pope, that the people his industry is about to replace will need help. While Olah was on that stage 3,000 miles north in an office park in Tel Aviv, a company every small business owner has heard of was running the same math on their own staff. And they were running it with no cameras, no priests, no warning, no Latin. Just a spreadsheet, a board meeting, and a Slack channel that was about to go very quiet. The company is Wix, the website builder. 5,277 people at the end of last quarter. 60% of them based in Israel. And on the same Monday Pope Leo's encyclical hit the Vatican press office, Wix's leadership confirmed plans to cut roughly 1,000 jobs. About 20% of the entire company. It is the largest layoff round in Wix's history. The headline numbers look like classic earnings pain. A Q1 net loss of $57.5 million on $541 million in revenue. The stock down almost 50% year to date. A $1.7 billion buyback that did not save the share price. On paper, it's a story about a struggling company cutting costs. But read past the spreadsheet. Multiple Israeli and global outlets are reporting that the cuts target developer and design roles being absorbed by Wix's own AI tools. The product Wix sells small businesses, build a website without hiring a developer, has just become the company's internal HR policy. The pitch became the plan. The tool replaced the toolmaker. And here's where it gets really interesting. 60% of those laid-off workers are in Israel. The country that built its national identity around being the startup nation just watched one of its biggest tech employers publicly trade humans for software. There were no protests in the streets. There was no government statement. The news landed on a U.S. holiday when the world's largest tech investors were not at their desks. Now stack the two events. At roughly 11 a.m. Rome time, a big tech co-founder told a pope, on camera, that AI labs cannot be trusted to police themselves. A few hours later, a company that helped build the modern small business internet quietly proved him exactly right by replacing the humans who built it. Two confessions, one day, one industry. And these are not isolated moves. Cloudflare cut roughly 1,100 jobs earlier in May. Coinbase cut around 700. Meta is reassigning 7,000 workers into AI roles while laying off 8,000 more. Bill is slashing up to 30% of staff. Upwork is cutting a quarter. Every single one of these cuts has been justified in earnings calls or staff memos by the same phrase, reorganizing around AI. Wait until you see what's coming Wednesday night. Nvidia reports earnings after the bell on Wednesday. The single most important data point in the market right now is whether the company selling shovels to the AI gold rush is still pulling record numbers. Wall Street is bracing for a result that will determine whether the spending on AI infrastructure, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta planned $725 billion in capex this year alone, is paying off or melting down. And this is where the Vatican stage gets uncomfortable. Because if Nvidia prints a blowout, every layoff you just heard about becomes easier to justify. Cheaper chips, faster models, fewer humans. And if Nvidia misses, the panic cuts the other way. Companies will rush to replace even more people faster because they need the cost story to hold. Either outcome accelerates the moment Pope Leo warned about. For 30 years, tech workers operated under an unwritten contract. You build the tools. You keep the job. Memorial Day 2026 was the day that contract publicly cracked. A pope said it from a balcony in Rome. An AI co-founder said it from the same stage. A website company said it with a layoff letter sent while Wall Street was closed. And nobody named the shift out loud because it happened on a holiday. There was no breaking news banner. No congressional hearing.
No seo e palegi.
Just a 42,000-word document in Latin, a quote from a research scientist at a Vatican press table, and a Slack message in Tel Aviv telling 1,000 people their roles were being absorbed into a product. Pope Leo wrote that AI should not tempt us to escape limitation through optimization. He meant biology.
He meant aging.
He meant suffering. He did not write the word employment. But every executive who read that sentence yesterday read it as employment. And the Wix decision, dropped the same day, made the translation public in a way no Vatican press release ever could. Now you can see what the one decision was. It wasn't a merger. It wasn't an acquisition. It was a small website company in Tel Aviv being the first to publicly say what every big tech CEO has been waiting to say all year, that AI is now cheaper than the developer who built it. The 24 hours that quietly reshaped big tech weren't loud. They were quiet because the most important people in the industry were on holiday. And the news that mattered most landed when nobody was watching the tape. Got an angle I missed? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you want me to keep digging into this stuff.